Hi everybody, welcome to another tutorial from Sound for More. In this video we are going to introduce Mynth from Fingerlab, and why not comparing it with Flynth, the older brother released previously by Fingerlab. So let's start. We are inside AUM and I create two audio channels. First of all, the fact that I can use both as a audio unit is because I have available the in-app purchase that allows you to have additional presets, but also to run it as a audio unit, and also allows you to use other features. And we have a competition as well, so we have a number of copies available, so just check the video description. So let's start to load Flynth. So we start straight away to compare with the loading time, roughly 2 seconds, something like that. Let's try Mynth as well. More or less the same. As you can see, also the icons are very similar, with 2 eyes on the tops and a kind of mouth at the bottom. In this case, both signaling in Flynth the ADSR and on the new Mynth the waveform. So let's open up Flynth. That is what it looks like. Let's move it down and let's open up also Mynth. As you can see, there has been a revamp in the user interface. They are both still 8 voice polyphony, but you can see that there has been a lot of improvements on the UI. But before we go into that, let's start with some sound and then we explain the differences. Okay, so let's enable the keyboard and play some sounds on Flynth. This is the default sound. Let's compare it straight away with a Mynth, like so. Quite different, and at the first, hearing of it, it sounds a little bit thinner. But then when you look at it, it's because if I move the interface a little bit like that, in Flynth you have a sub VCO, which is enabled alongside the VCO. While instead on the default presets for Mynth, I had 3 VCOs more or less actually moving up in different octaves. So before we go into explaining the differences, let's play a little bit with Mynth so that you get an idea of some of the preset. So this is the default that you just heard. Okay, fantastic. Let's move to the ADS, the second one. And this is where I think I started to get more interested in on the sound. There's a bit of distortion as well, which is really nice. Let's try the different one. Really nice. Let's try another one. Okay, this could be used as a potential pad. You can see some LFO moving here on the octave. Really nice. Let's try something else. This church preset. Really, really nice. So you have 96 presets so for you to explore. Of course. Let's go back to the default now a preset, and let's start to compare the two synths and see what are the main differences. Okay, back on Flynth you had the VCO, a pulse width and a sub VCO, and you have a general volume, octave and pitch. On Mynth you have 3 VCOs, VCO 1, 2 and 3. And for each one of them, you can change the volume, the octave, and the pitch. So let's enable that. You can disable them, of course. Volume, octave, and pitch. This is fine pitch. You can also click here where it says time 12s, and it will change more rapidly. and double click to go back to the default. In a sense, this is what we had as well. Here you have a volume, an octave, a pitch, but we have a dedicated pulse width and a dedicated sub VCO. But you can create the same effect here, just using different octave for different VCOs. Now, the other interesting thing and the new thing is that while in Flynth you have very specific waveform, for each of the VCO in Flynth, actually, you can choose, yes, a sine, a triangle, a square, or a sawtooth, but you can also randomize a waveform, or you can click and hold and draw your waveform as well, which is new. So quite more powerful, really, really nice. It gives you a lot of more capability, as you can hear. You have an ADSR here, which you can multiply also by 5 if you want to have a longer timing on your envelope. And that's similar to what you had here, although you didn't have the ×5 on Flynth. Next, we have 2 filters on Mynth, where you can decide the cutoff, resonance, and depth. And you can also set what type of filter, a Moog ladder, a Korg low pass, a resonant, or a string resonator, which is really nice, with also an ADSR. In Flynth, we had a filter where you had only cutoff, a resonance, not depth. So, while addition to the depth, you didn't have also the type of filter, but you had a vibrato where you can choose the depth and rate. You don't have a vibrato in Mynth, but you have 2 filters, and I suppose you could simulate with some playing and changing settings, something like a vibrato using the second filter. You have an ADSR as you had in Flynth, but you also have the selection for ×5 here on Mynth, which you didn't have it on Flynth. Next, we have 4 LFOs in Mynth, for which you can select parameters, which was the same as in Flynth. You can select the rate and depth. As well, you had the rate and depth on the LFO, but of course the main differences are that in Mynth now you can choose what type of waveform, randomize it, also create your own, and you have also an attack sustain for each of the LFO, and of course you have 4 LFOs instead of 2. You can still decide if you want an LFO to play in a loop or to play only once as well. You have a master volume here. For Mynth, well, instead in Flynth, you have, as I mentioned earlier, a volume and octave pitch overall. So a few differences there. You have also, by the way, before I forget, you can multiply by 10 the rate and for all the LFOs as in Flynth, and you can set as reverse for depth as well as you could do for Flynth as well on depth. Moving on, you have an undo function as you had in both. The effects have changed actually. Inside Mynth, you have tube amp, tape delay, and reverb. But in the old Flynth, you actually had a phaser, an additional one. So I don't know what happened in terms of Mynth that they missed the phaser. Perhaps it will be added later. The ARP module is very much the same, as you can say. Where you have ability to enable the arpeggiator, set the tempo, and change the note lengths, etc. So it's actually rotating from one note to the other as you play chords. Okay, so let's close Flynth and let's focus on Mynth instead. So I have 1 VCO enabled. Let's set a sine wave, right? Really nice. I could say, okay, drop a little bit of sustain. So it dropped. I could have it much longer. Because I multiply by 5, it makes it more obvious if I move the sustain down. There you go. You can hear it now. You can, of course, enable multiple VCO. trying to simulate a sub-VCO. Can change the pitch a little bit to detune it. Maybe a different square waveform. Really nice. Here we have, of course, you can enable the third VCO. You have 2 filters here. So let's disable one. Let's focus on the first one. Okay, let's give it an attack. And you can hear it's dropping down, okay, because I set the sustain lower. So you can play a little bit with that. You have also 4 LFOs. So similar to what you had in Flynth. So you click on a parameter and then you select a parameter, which can also be another LFO. So let's say that I want to modulate the cutoff here. It says 1 here because you have 1 LFO assigned. So let's play. Instead of going up, let's choose a sine wave. Let's increase the rate. We could add some effects. Let's try a reverb. Some delay. Be careful, you have 8 voice polyphony, so you run out very quickly. I hope Fingerlab increases the number of voices because that would be really, really nice. And what you notice as well, as many other synths coming out, you have a random or a dice function now. We have seen these in application like, for example, Chord Jam, but we've seen that in application from Versin, etc. So you click on it and it will randomize settings so to create a new preset. Really nice. Okay. If you click here on the default, you have the same thing in terms of selecting presets that you had in Flynth, so different categories. Of course, if you have the in-app purchase, then you have access to all the presets. You can also save your presets as well. You have a default, which is located under lead at the very top. And at the bottom here, you have your user preset as well. Okay, that's it for Mynth. Really nice. I hope you enjoyed, particularly seeing the differences with Flynth. So if you have Flynth and you wonder if to get Mynth, hopefully this video will help you to decide. Thank you. See you next time. Bye.